is, I know you're new in the department, we are going to learn how to do the navigator log today, okay? Have you ever worked at a job where you had to open it up for the day?
No.
Okay. Have you ever started a project and you needed to kind of know everything you needed for that project?
Yes.
Okay, so that's kind of like what this is, okay? This is how we start the day in Echo. We're gonna go through it step by step, and then we're gonna let you practice it, okay? There are 7 steps that we're gonna start with, okay? Now, due to HIPAA, I've covered up these patient information names, but we're gonna use the computer, okay? So for this, you have to have the navigator log, which is this sheet. You'll have to have your production log from the day before. You'll have to have your reading doctor list and a pen, okay? And then your Epic access, okay? So the first step is fill in the day, date, and your name, okay? The next step is fill in the reading doctor's name. The next step is to fill out how many unread echoes there are. The next step is to fill in the surgery schedule. The next step is to fill in how many observation patients we have for the day. Then you're gonna fill in our counts for the day. The last step is to give phone assignments. And that's how we fill out the navigator log. Okay? So let's go over it again. So the first step is you fill in the day, the date, and your name. There's no key points to that, okay? The second is to fill in the reading doctor's name. This is where you're gonna check the log, and the log will tell you which doctor is reading echoes for that day. The next step is to fill in unread echoes. For this, you'll need the production log, and this is where you check to see if it's been read. And then you just fill that number in. Filling in the surgery schedule is the next step. Now, this one has a couple of key points to it, okay? The first one is we're gonna check our status board. Your status board is up here, and when you click on it, it brings up our OR schedule, okay? So check status board. The second key step is you're going to check OR1 and OR2, okay? The third is the order will say that a TEE is needed. And the fourth is you check for 3 days out, okay? So check the status board, check OR1 and OR2. It will say TEE is needed, and then you check for 3 days out, okay? So we're gonna fill all that information out. The next step is fill in how many observation patients we have. Observation patients are patients in a specific unit of our hospital, and the best way to look at that is when you're at your tech work list, you can sort it by room, and it will organize it, and you can see which patients are in that particular unit, and that will make it easier for you to see and to count. So you'll write that number down. Filling in the counts is our number 6 step. To do this, you can sort that list again by procedure type, and that will help you be able to count those, okay? The last is you give phone assignments. We have 4 portable phones for the echo department, 1 for every echo tech. And it's done by rotation. Our rotation is posted every week, and the numbers are assigned by which area of echo they're covering. Okay, so that's what those are. So you will write the phone number and the text initials next to it of who will get it. Okay, so once we've filled all that out, that's how we do the napkin. So I'm gonna go over it one more time and then we're gonna let you try, okay? Alright, so, first important step, fill in the day, date, and time. And there's no key points. Fill in the reading doctor's name. This is where we look at this to make sure we're giving it to the correct reader. Cardiologists get paid by how many echoes they read in a day. So you wanna make sure that you're giving them all the echoes to the correct doctor. Okay? Unread echoes. This is where we check the production log and check for unread echoes and write that number down. This is because our doctors have a specific time in which to read echoes, okay? And if they're over that time limit, they can get dinged for it. The surgery schedule. This is where we go and we look at the status board. So status board is where our OR schedule is. We look at OR1 and OR2 because these are the only two OR rooms that are cardiac surgeries. The third is the order will say that a TEE is needed, and that's because not every cardiac surgery needs a TEE, okay? And then the last one is you check for 3 days in advance so that we can let our reading cardiologists know that they have a surgery in 3 days that they need to be ready to come and do, okay? It just helps keep them accountable. So we fill all that out. Fifth step is filling in the observation patients, okay? The observation patients, you're gonna go back to your tech work list, you're gonna sort by room, and this puts them all together in one group to make it easier to count. The other thing you can do is you can write 2 patients at whatever time you fill this out. And that's because if they add any more on, that will just add to the count, okay? The counts at the top, number 6, we're gonna fill those out. You can sort by procedure type, makes them easier to count and easier to put them down. So, you know, if we have 20 regular echoes and 5 TEEs, this is our basis for the day. So we know that somebody's gonna be doing 5 TEEs, and there's also 20 regular echoes that need to be accomplished. And then the last step is giving phone assignments. And that's done by tech rotation that's posted, and it's also done by modality. And that's so that whoever's doing TEEs for the week, the other people that are involved in TEEs have that specific number to call, okay? And then we just fill that out. And that's the navigator log. Okay. All right. So we're gonna let you try. I'm gonna let you try it. And just start with the important steps at first.
The first stuff we do for navigation log?
Yes.
Okay, we put the date, day, date, and then my name.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then we go to the reader of the day, which will be the cardiologist. And then we just take a look at their schedule.
So we're looking at their name, the reading cardiologist.
And then we count the unread echoes from the previous day, and that's when we use the production log. Yes, so we'll check that out. The next step that we do is check for surgery schedule, which we'll check on the computer. And
I'm gonna go up to status board up there at the very top, on that top banner. There we go. Yep, status board. Mm-hmm.
And then we basically make a count of 3 days in advance to let the cardiologist know that they will be having a OR case that they need to be prepared for.
We fill in the OR schedule.
And then the next thing we do is that we check for the observations, observation patients. So we'll go back to our tech list, and then tech work list, and then we could just, go back by the unit and then count how many observation patients we have. And then we can also write the time so we can let them know how many observation patients we started for the day.
Okay.
Okay, and then the next thing we do is that we make a count of how many echoes and how many TEEs we have for the day. And then we can do that by just sorting it out in the type work list. And then the next thing we're gonna do is that we are going to assign phones to each tech that we have a, like schedule for.
That's right. Okay, so let's do it again, and this time see if you can tell me the key points that go with the important steps. So our first important step is
The day, the date, and my name. And there's no really key points for that.
right.
Okay. The next thing is to notify the reader of the day, which will be in the cardiologist doctor's list.
Mhm.
And then the next thing we do is that we notify physicians of unread echoes from the previous day, because that gives the doctor, well, we check it on the production work list, and then that gives the cardiologist,
So that's really the reason for the key point. So
Okay.
the key point is to check the production log.
okay,
Okay, so that's how we fill out that we have unread echoes. We
Okay.
check the production log.
Gotcha.
And then the next one will be,
the surgery schedule.
that's right, and that one had the 4 points. Do you remember what they are?
The 4 points.
The 4 key points. So the first one is to check the schedule. Where do you find the schedule?
On the status board.
Perfect.
And then we
Okay.
check for, surgery is always in OR1 and OR2.
Correct.
That's
Mhm. The third key point is about the order itself.
24 hours, 3 days in advance.
So that is true, that's actually key point number 4, but the
Okay.
third one is about the order itself. The order will specify that there will be a
A
TE.
TE that needs to be done because not all surgeries need a TE.
That's right.
And then we just make a count, and then we also let the cardiologist know, that way they can know that, they're gonna have a TE in the OR.
That's right.
And then the third, that's the fourth. Next step,
Yeah, next step is,
the observation units.
mhm,
And we can check that in our tech work list.
mhm,
We can go over here and then sort it out by unit and just basically give a count of how many observations patients we have for the day.
right. Yeah. Next step,
The next step is that we make a count of how many echoes and how many TEs we're gonna have for the day.
Mhm.
And that basically gives also the techs a good idea of how many TEs are gonna be for the day and how many echoes we have starting off.
Right.
And
and there's one last step.
and the last step is to assign each tech with a work phone number.
Mhm. Okay, and why do we do that?
That way everybody knows what they're assigned for the day, so that the schedule's already planned out a week in advance.
That's right. It also helps so that the people that are also working with those modalities have a number to call, that they can reach the person that's gonna be working in the modality for the day.
Right.
Okay, so we've, done this, and I feel like you've kinda already worked on the steps and the key points and the reasons. Let's do it one more time, and then, we will talk about what we're gonna do next. Okay, so let's start. So, important step number 1.
Important step number 1, it's a day, date, and my name.
Mm-hmm. Are there any key points?
No.
Okay.
The second thing would be to notify, to check who's the reader of the day, which
Yes.
we'll find on the calendar.
Yes. And why do we do that?
So now the doctor is reading the echoes for the day.
Right.
Second thing is to see how many unread echoes there were from the previous day, which we can find in the productivity log.
Yep.
And this is because it gives cardiologists are based how many echoes they read in the day, and that way they can be familiar with how many echoes they didn't read from the previous day.
Well, and they also have a set amount of time.
And the set amount of
Read.
time, right. The next step is to check for observation. Next step is to check for surgery,
Right.
which we can find in the status board. We always check for OR1 and OR2 because that's usually where we have our cases from. This will give the cardiologist so just to let them know that they're gonna have a surgery ahead of time.
That's right. And the order will say that a TE is needed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Check that out. Next thing to do is to check for the observations. We go back to our tech work list and we can just modify this with the unit. And this this will let us know how many observation patients we had starting that day.
Right.
And the next step is to the next step is to count how many echoes and how many TEs we have for the day.
That's right.
Next step is to assign work phone numbers to each tech. The schedules are put out in a week in advance, and this lets everybody know which phone number they have in case they need to be reached.
Okay. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna let you keep this sheet to look at, but then since you're training with me, over the next couple of weeks, we're just gonna keep doing this over and over again, and hopefully it'll just, become like second nature to you. If for any reason I wasn't here, any of the other girls in the department would be able to help you, okay? So anybody that comes in, we train them, this is one of the first things they get trained on. So if you need anything, you can go to them, okay? Do you have any questions for me?
No, not at the moment.
Perfect. All right, well, we'll see you tomorrow.
All right, thank you.
All right.